My deepest sense and understanding of how to use the summer months is that we must deeply receive. We can't go chasing. We have to allow things to grow. If we are running around and we are chasing, it's sending out signals to the universe that we are not trusting and we are not allowing. We're blocking ourselves. This is episode 12, a solo episode with myself, and today we're going to be talking about resting to receive in the season of summer's most abundant light codes. Welcome back. It's Kathryn, and a huge welcome to the Living on Purpose podcast. This is a place where we discuss the importance of purpose in our lives and connect with others that have created soul-aligned offerings that build into their own personal purpose. This episode is such an amazing opportunity to share a little bit more about the summer solstice and stepping into summer all the way up into Lionsgate. And it's perfect right ahead of the psilocybin microdose group that we are doing over at KLZ Method. Whether you're joining us or whether you are just tuning in to hear some of the background on this, it's such a great way to really start to work collaboratively with these light codes in this time of season. We're back with another episode, and today this is something that I've been really looking forward to talking about more and getting into with you, the light codes and how this season of light works. So we hear a lot about light codes. This is sort of like a trend word now where we're hearing light codes this and DNA activation and all these different things. I've come into a deeper connection with this through my body, understanding how these light codes work and really developing a relationship with them over time. I would say that this relationship was always there. Living on a farm in Michigan, life was really a lot around the seasons. You know, we stayed inside if it was cold out, or we would play with a lot of clothes on. In the fall, we would do certain things, and we would experience the walnuts and the smells that came from the trees in that season. And in the spring, we would rake and take care of our lawn and our gardens and just see everything coming. In the summer, we would experience beautiful, bountiful gardens of strawberries and lettuce and carrots. And as kids, we would go into the garden. We would just be outside all day long. We would go to the garden and have a snack. We would literally pick out a carrot, go over to the hose and wash it off, and that would be our snack, or pick out strawberries. To this day still, I love warm strawberries, even with a little bit of a crunch on them, because I used to go to the garden and I would pick these strawberries that were just soaking in all these light codes, go rinse them off, maybe not even rinse them off. Maybe they had a little crunch from the dirt. It was just such a powerful experience. It was just such a palpable, somatic experience to taste those strawberries with the warmth on them, and to even experience that dirt as something really beautiful and aligned with our natural essence. You know, rather than pulling them out of the refrigerator, coming from a plastic bin, grown in some kind of conditions, who knows if it's even in actual real sunlight, or if it's some kind of ultraviolet blue light that these foods are growing in. So those were my first experiences of light codes, and just holding those deep in my heart and my body, and being able to remember the feeling of that strawberry. And now coming into a different time, really getting a sense for the food that we're eating and how it feels to my body. Like I just said, the warm strawberry with a little bit of a crunch, an organic crunch, we can call it, versus those strawberries coming out of the refrigerator from a plastic bin. Just that feeling that you get when you even consider that. It's very obvious. And it just seems so essential to bring up this topic of light codes and how we are living in light codes, and how we can connect to light codes, and the value and the nourishment delivered through these light codes, how essential it is to our bodies, especially because of all the computer time that we're spending, all the blue light that we're soaking in. It's so essential to ground out that blue light by putting your feet on the earth, and to then soak in the true light. That is the true light. And there's so many references to this in spirituality. You know, we're light workers. In Reiki, the Christ is that light. You know, all these different relationships to light and how important it is. And let me tell you, when they're talking about Reiki and light healers, and they're talking about Christ, or wherever we're hearing the word light, it's not talking about blue light. It's talking about those beautiful, powerful sunlight codes that come from our beautiful sun, the planet that we that we circle around. It's so important to our very life, and we become so disconnected to that whole concept. In the ancient times, the sun was reveled as a deity, and there were so many different deities. Helios in Greek, Sol in Latin, Ra in Egyptian. Aztec mythology had a sun god. Inti was the ancient Incan sun god. In the Native American tribes, they definitely connected deeply with the sun and all of nature as the elements. This is a fire element. This is power. It's so important to recognize how embedded the sun was in these ancient tribes and cultures. And we've become so disconnected from that. We are so much more inside now than we ever have been. We're so much more connected to our TV screens, and the light codes that we're receiving are distorting to our DNA. Whereas the sun is truly fueling our body. When we talk about energy, we talk about where energy is created. The sun's energy is transferred to plants, which use it to convert water and carbon dioxide into sugars. This is called photosynthesis. We know this, right? And plants or fruit or strawberries are then consumed by humans. We are consuming that sun energy. When we consume animal meat, we are consuming those sunlight codes through the animal that ate the grass or the plant, and we're internalizing it that way. So being able to consume the sun through our food, through those nutrients, is so powerful. There are a lot of different companies that are now growing food indoors because of the conditions of growing, not having to manage weather and just being able to control the environment is cheaper. It's more cost effective. And putting these blue lights around in order to grow the food, that's becoming very normalized. So when we have these gardens and we're able to eat some of these sun codes, it really is nourishing our body in such a deeper way. Those sunlight codes are activating the food. They're activating us when we consume them. They're turning us on to different ways rather than this manufactured food that we're consuming. It just doesn't have the same opportunity to nourish our bodies. So that's one really big element of the sun and how we can consume it through our food. Another way we consume it is by being in it. So when we're outside and we are in the sunshine, able to consume sunlight that way, it's even more powerful. Our skin is our largest organ. It takes up 12 to 15% of the body. So let's talk about how sunlight affects the body through the skin. We've talked about how we can consume it. Now, as we come into the skin, we receive those UVB light codes to our epidermis, and they say that it produces vitamin D. And the way that it does that is that it hits the body and causes a reaction, a chemical reaction, that then boosts the vitamin D, boosts the serotonin. The brain and the central nervous system have to have vitamin D to function properly. And yes, we can take a vitamin for this. But this sun exposure, it's the direct natural way to obtain these significant amounts of vitamin D, and it allows our body to go through that natural process. Exposure to the sun provides 90% of vitamin D for humans. We can also soak this in through our eyes. This is where we get support for our pineal gland that's linked to our sixth chakra, our third eye, where our intuition is formed and created. When sunlight enters your eyes, it stimulates the parts of your retina that then cue the brain to produce serotonin as well. So these natural ways of really connecting to the sun and bringing your physical body into these light codes is so important. I have a meditation for this in the Connecting to Your Body section of my membership, where we literally do a meditation. This is a meditation you can do while you're in the sun, just to visualize that sunlight coming from billions of miles away through the atmosphere, coming to kiss your skin, and then absorbing those codes in and watching your body. It's the mechanics of your body. Turn this into feel-good emotions and feel-good energy. There's so much more that is said about these light codes that are coming in, about how it supports our DNA. And in a day and age where there are so many things disrupting our DNA, from the water that we drink, to the air that we breathe, to the chemicals sprayed on our food, there are just so many different ways that are found to scientifically be breaking down our DNA. When we come into these light codes, this is really stepping into, this is really supporting our DNA. When we step into the sunlight, I deeply feel that we are activating our DNA. We are healing our DNA. If you've read any of Dr. Joe Dispenza's book about DNA, it's so fascinating. He talks about previous studies had been showing us that 20% of our DNA is what we really know in science. We understand that it picks out the color of our eyes and it determines the color of our hair and our skin. We pull this directly from the genetics of our parents. And with Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, he's now finding and proving that that other 80% of the DNA that they were calling junk DNA actually holds a lot of information about our emotional patterns, our ancestral lineage. These are things that happen if we had an ancestor that experienced great fear or worry or abandonment, that those emotions store in our DNA and are passed down, and we are able to heal them. We're able to go back the same way that the emotional response caused the DNA to change. We can go back and reverse engineer to heal those wounds. And by stepping into the sunlight, by putting ourselves into these higher frequencies of the people that we're around, the meditation practices that we use, all these various things, we're able to step deeper into our highest coding, our highest vibration. We're able to shift things forward and backwards in our timeline, backwards in our ancestral lineage, forward to our own children. I've seen this happen. I've experienced this happening in my own life with my own kids. When I'm shifting something, I'm watching it shift for them. These are just a few examples of how the sunlight already makes such a powerful impact in our lives. And now I want to just talk about the season of light. The season of light and how we experience it in the Northern Hemisphere is that we have the summer solstice, we have the fall equinox, we have the winter solstice, and we have the spring equinox. And there are various holidays from the pagan times as well that mark the dates in between. Imbolc, which is halfway between winter solstice and spring equinox. Beltane, which is May Day, which is between the spring equinox and summer solstice. Lughnasadh, which is halfway between summer solstice and autumn equinox. And Samhain, which is right at Halloween. These are ancient pagan holidays that are all based on the sun. And there are different things that happen at different points of this. In our culture, we know May Day to be a time where there's a lot of bunnies and like Easter's around the way, and there's just so much like green grass and bright colors. This is all related back to the fertility of the earth and how the fertility of the earth coming back alive after being in that winter solstice, that time without light, is very well represented. The fertility of the bunnies is well known in culture as bunnies multiply rapidly with their sexual nature, and May Day was just a time when everyone is celebrating the fertility of the planet, the fertility of our earth. In the same way, Samhain is that time where we're closing things down, when we are letting things die off. We're celebrating in Spanish culture the Day of the Dead. We're celebrating the death of the earth as it falls away and it's completed its harvest. These are just a few, but winter solstice has always just really been so beautiful to me when we step into that winter solstice, and it ties in so beautifully with Christianity and the Son of God, the Son of God. The light, the darkest day of the world is the time when the Son of God was born. We come into that time, December 21st generally, is when the sun starts to return, and that is when Jesus was born. It's just really interesting to me. And I've just taken some time to really connect some of the actual cultural significances and religious significances, and then align them with how it feels to me in those seasons. And I've taken some time as I've stepped deeper into my energy work with Reiki and my Kundalini practice, and really just connecting into these sources of light and allowing things to die off in those seasons, finding the beauty, the natural state and flow of that waning sun. And it's just been so powerful to me. I'm sharing this episode in this perfect aligned time because it is such an amazing time when we come into the summer solstice. We're going to start with the cycle of things. Let's start at the completion of a whole cycle where things are now dying off. I think it's so important to see things from where we're releasing, where we're letting things die off. And as we're talking about this, consider not just how this works in nature, but how this works in your own experience as you release in order to step into the next version of yourself, as you contract in order to expand. And this goes right into our workouts where we're contracting the muscle to then expand. Each time you're contracting, you're squeezing, 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 so that then you can release and expand. This is the same thing that happens. This is the same pressure that creates diamonds. Nothing good forms without pressure. So this is what we're having in this death season, the Scorpio season energy, where nature has given its abundance. And now that plant that has passed along that abundance is releasing. This is along the same lines again of our life cycle. There's so much beauty in this cycle when we honor the stage that we're in rather than trying to hold on to where we're not. In the course of our lives, when we are a young child and we honor being in that childlike phase, when we step into puberty and we honor where we are in this new journey, we come into our more fertile ages and we're in that creative space. Once we've created and we're allowing things to just grow, and then as we're coming into our older years, we're letting things fall away, but we have so much wisdom now as a result of this experience in this life. When we step into and start to really live in alignment with nature, this is how we can live, recognizing the seasons of life. And so let's start from the very end of a life cycle, just because it's so cool. There's so much here that I want to share with. The end of the life cycle of a plant, it's borne its fruit. Its fruit has been abundant. It has been wildly and massively accepted and received and loved and experienced and utilized to its highest and greatest offering. And now that plant that it's given and borne that fruit, now that plant is able to release. It's done all of its work. It's able to let its leaves fall off. The weather changes and it starts to fall into the ground. It starts to dry up. It starts to break down and it goes back into the earth. You can think of a corn stalk after it's given some corn, or you can think of your strawberry plants when you've had a beautiful season of strawberries and now the season is past and the plant stays alive for a while and then it goes dormant. Or you can think of other plants that are just one season where you have to plant them every year, and that plant just, the leaves and everything that have generated that energy, that have created that photosynthesis for the fruit to be born, now fall away and go back into the earth. You see this death cycle happening. It's just so cool. So we'll envision this plant that's borne its fruit and it's falling away now. As it's falling away, everything goes back to the earth. In the northern hemisphere, in the northern parts of the US, the plant falls away, it dies. The first frost comes through, it freezes things. The snows might come through, they melt and freeze things even further. The ground is insulated underneath of this blanket of snow, and the ground is frozen. The ground becomes so cold. And then in the spring, this is one of my favorite times, is when in spring, there's like secret little things happening underneath the ground, like in February and March. Little secret things are happening under the ground where the whole old body of that plant has now turned into mush. It's just cold and wet from the snow. It starts to melt and it starts to rain. The rain really pushes any of that old plant back into the earth so that it is now nourishing the soil. Everything that was that old body that had created this beautiful fruit is now offering its body to nourish the planet, to nourish the earth, so that it can now support and growing this next season's abundance. This is one of my favorite times of year because it's like a secret. The ground is holding the secrets of what's going to happen this year. The plant, the 7 generations is now, it's there, it's potent in the soil. It's already offered itself up. It gives itself to the earth. We start to see this next round of abundance come in. And in the springtime, we'll see little seeds growing. They start to root down. They get all the support that they need. They have the thunderstorms that really support the nitrogen through that electricity in the air. And they start to grow with the season. They come into the spring season. They start to grow. They start to feel the sunlight. They're well watered. Everything is so green in the spring. They're really getting their roots down. And then they are growing. They're flourishing. The sunlight codes are coming in and just baking them with so much. Some of these plants you'll see, they literally turn their leaves upward when they're ready to receive the light. And then in the midday, they'll flip their leaves over when they have received enough light until the abundance comes through and they start to bear their fruit. They're growing their fruit. They bring their fruit out. And then we do the work to harvest all of these beautiful crops and to bring everything in. And then again, the plant dies and it goes back into the earth, and the cycle repeats itself over and over and over. This is exactly how we work in our creative process when we are in alignment. We are at first doing the work. There's things to plan, like the farmer in January and February. He's not doing work out on the land. He's making plans of how this is going to work. He's in a contractive space. He's planning his farm for the next season. This is what we can do too. We are in that place of contraction where we're listening, we're looking, we're listening, we're making decisions based off the previous decisions, off the previous crop year, and we are creating a map. And then once we're shown the correct time, we put that plan into action. This is a cultivating time. So we're cultivating the soil, we're putting the ideas into action, we're creating things. There's work here. This is when we're out, we're expansive, we're in this expansive workspace. We're doing the things essential to create this map and this plan, put it to life. And after we do that work, then we sit back and allow the things to grow. We do minor work to it. We do gentle tweaking, pulling weeds, watering. We're not doing heavy work like we are when we're planting. We're not doing heavy work like the next season that comes after everything grows, and then we're harvesting. We're able to just kind of allow things to flow. This is an expansive time where the plant just grows. The idea just grows. It naturally attracts what it needs and it just continues to grow. Then we come into this time. We are not using a ton of energy. We're allowing things to just grow naturally. They are getting the sunlight that they need. They are getting the water that they need. We do, like I said, we do light little things to support. We water, we pull weeds. And then in the fall, we're doing the work. We're pulling in the harvest. We're doing the work to bring in the harvest. It's a lot of work to bring in a harvest. There's a lot of things involved. This is the same thing in our business. When we have the harvest, we have to actually do the work now. Everything has grown and we're ready to go, so we're doing the work now. And this is just so aligned with the way that I have done my own business in the last 4 or 5 years. This has been so amazing for me to watch the seasons and to receive that guidance and wisdom in nature on how and where I am. It literally has been a map for me. When it's wintertime, I am taking time to refine my plan. What did I like about last year? What didn't I like about last year? This is aligned with the New Year's energy. And, let's make a list and let's go and make some intentions and let's do all these things. This is why I feel like the new year brings in so much new energy and it's exciting to make these new plans. We review what did and didn't work. We set things into motion for our new plan for this year based on that. And then when spring comes, we begin to put that into action. There's a lot of things that happen in that phase of planning though. We're listening. We're in that contractive space. So we're building something, we're mapping it out, and then we're watching and listening. We're building something, we're working with the moon cycles, we're working with the planetary cycles, and then we are watching as it shows itself to us. When we come into spring, then we have an active plan we're putting into motion. So we're now in that active space where we're doing the work. We're putting things together. We're making outlines. We're feeling into it, still working with the cycles of everything else and listening to the flow and staying intuitively connected so that when summer comes along, we aren't having to work. This is the space that we are right now. And this is such an important thing. And really the whole point of this episode is to talk about this season that we're in right now. In so many cultures, summer is a time of being able to go out and to do things and to be active. And we do so much. We're living and doing, and the sun is out. We can stay up later. We can grill. Everybody wants to be out because it feels good. And we oftentimes can get to this place where we're so much in that action that we are forgetting that this season is not about running around. This season is about allowing things to grow. We can really get into this place where we experience burnout. These light codes come in. By the time we get to Lionsgate portal, we've chased around so many things that we are just burnt, sun-scorched, and scabbed over, and we can't even receive any of the new light codes that want to come in. If you're new to Lionsgate, here's a little bit more information. Lionsgate portal is something that is said to give a boost to people's aspirations and allows them to manifest new ideas. It's a time of massive abundance is how it's known. It's on August 8th, the 8/8 portal. And it's said to be this massively abundant time. So the Lionsgate portal is the halfway point between the summer solstice and the autumn equinox. They say that the halfway point thins the veil between the physical world and the spiritual world, and it brings in powerful downloads of psychic information. They say that this is the most abundant time, and I believe, I have experienced that this most abundant time is due to the fact that the light codes are very intense. When you think about June 21st being the summer solstice, when we think about June, it's not typically a super warm month. The sunlight codes have just reached their high. They haven't completely warmed up the earth yet. Just like the winter solstice isn't the coldest time of year. The light is at its darkest, but that cold, that lack of sun, hasn't completely affected the planet all the way. So in the summertime, when we have the summer solstice, it's not the hottest point. It's the most light point. And when we have that most light point and that light continues, even though now it's dissipating, it is creating those heat units. And those heat units continue to grow, with the Lionsgate portal August 8th being that highest point of heating units. What I feel happens is at that 8/8 portal, when we've been in our manifestation, we've put ourselves in this action-oriented go mode since spring, when we're chasing our intentions. We've put them into action and we're doing all these things to really make them happen. We're in the season of abundance. We're chasing it rather than attracting it. We need to have a deeper trust for what we've put into motion energetically. In the spring, you put into motion a plan that you deeply considered during the winter months. You put work behind it, you put effort behind it, you put energy behind it. Anytime you have created a plan and then you put some kind of energy behind it, you create a new reality. If that is based in a fitness workout, if you're setting an intention in a yoga class and then you're making motion behind it, or if you're at church and you're lighting a candle or singing with a group of people together, when you are in a workout and you set an intention for your workout and then you put energy behind it, the same way that we're doing this in the spring, the same way that we're setting an intention with all of the planning that we've done and then putting it into motion and letting that sun activate it. This is the way that we are manifesting. This is working with the energy. It's so important. It's such a game changer to really understand this. When we're working with the energy of the sun, we're aligned with our natural flow as humans on this planet. We're coming back to our truth. We're coming back to the essence of being human, of being part of nature. We aren't on the planet, we're part of the planet. The things that we do affect the planet. So at that Lionsgate portal, when the light codes are their highest, my experience personally has been that I fried myself. I fried myself 2 years in a row. I fried myself 1 year specifically when I was just doing so much of my practice and I was so aligned and I felt like I really wanted to wake up early in order to be awake and watch the sunrise. I love to wake up early and sit outside in the patio and to do my practice in those early morning quiet hours. They're so divine. I was waking up early. I was staying up late. I was manifesting all day. The sunlight just finally feels like, oh my God, it's so intense. I have to close the blinds of the house and just take a break. I think a lot of us have experienced that time in summer where it's just like, oh my God, I love summer, especially if you're in a climate where it's winter for a long time. You have this feeling of like, you've got to make every moment count because you know when we're in the darker days that it's so uncomfortable and we really feel like we need to live it up in order to make sure that we got it all. Because we miss it so much in the winter, we want to make sure that we really were able to experience every iota. But that doesn't mean in the winter that we miss it less because we soaked up to the point of putting ourselves into some kind of anxiety attack. It doesn't mean that we are more appreciative because we're running around like crazy people. My deepest sense and understanding of how to use the summer months is that we must deeply receive. We can't go chasing. We can't go running. We can't go getting. We have to just allow things to glow. We have to allow things to grow. If we are running around and we are chasing all these things, we've put together a map of our business that we thought was solid. We put the intention out, we put some energy behind it, and then we're still scurrying around. It's sending out signals to the universe that we don't, in fact, believe that what we did was going to naturally attract what we had set out for. It means that we don't believe that our plan was actually a good plan. It means we don't value the work that we did in the spring. When we're scurrying around and we've created something and then we're still scurrying around and we're in this state, it really shows the universe that we are not trusting and we are not allowing, we're blocking ourselves. When I fried myself that summer, I could feel my energy field had a scab over it. Rather than those leaves that are able to turn upward to receive or turn over when they've had enough, I exposed myself and exposed myself and exposed myself and told myself I had to push through to the point that I scabbed myself where nothing could come in. No more energy could come in. No more light codes could come in. I stalled out. I stalled my own energy by doing that. I didn't trust, I wasn't aligned, and I learned from it. The way that I do things now in this season, I understand. Listen, I understand right along with you when you get into these phases of life, when you're in the go. It's so fun. That's the adrenaline. That's a drug. That is a drug. When we get into those go phases, it feels so good. We're in that action oriented masculine energy that's just so fun to see things happening, and this is happening and that's happening and then this goes and then I'm on this and I'm on that computer. This is so fun, but it's not sustainable. We can't stay in that go energy. It's out of balance if we do. We burn ourselves out. So what we need to do instead is recognize when we're in that fun space, enjoy it, stay grounded in it. And then when we start to feel that wobble, your body will tell you, if you ask it to tell you, your body will say, tap, 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 hey, it's enough for today. You need to go take a break. You need to go rest for a second. You need to go be in nature. I know you don't feel like it. I know you don't want to. Trust me. Go throw your body in the sunlight for a second. That's what I've been doing. I've been working and all these things are coming in and I'm like I'm on the path. It's so fun. I'm riding it, right? And then all of a sudden I will feel this tap. It starts to feel to me on my energy just around my shoulders and just under my deltoids. I feel this like staticky energy, just like nails on a chalkboard feeling, just kind of like pulling me. And I can ignore it and I can say, no, 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 I'm going to just finish this thing. But then I know I need to take myself out of that area. I need to get up. I need to go somewhere else. I need to put myself on the earth. I need to hug a tree. I need to put myself in the sunlight. I need to drink some water. I need to reground, regroup, and really receive all of that energy that I just put out for. If you think of yourself as you're running through somewhere to go get something, wherever it might be, you're running around to get things. Actually, this is something that Morgan mentioned to me the other day that I really loved. When we're in the grocery store and we're picking up all these things, we've got our arms full of all of these groceries. And then someone comes and gives us a basket that we can just put all of these things in the basket. You can let go of it. It's such a beautiful analogy. A basket can receive those things. When that basket receives those things, you can look into the basket and see what you even have. You can review it a little bit. You can see then what you might be missing. If you're just running around the grocery store and you're picking up the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, you might not even recognize that you've forgotten something. You can't even tell what you have. You're going to drop some things. So when we come into this place, it's so important. This is the message of this whole episode, is that when we're in this place of active light codes, we're in this time that we're stepping into right now. We are in this phase of summer solstice to Lionsgate. This is a time of deep receiving. Do you hear my message? This is a time of deep receiving. You've done a lot. It's not to say that you can't do anything. Again, in this season with the crops, we're pulling weeds, we're watering, we're tending. We're coming to a tending phase of life right now. Everything that we've put into action, we have to step back and allow it to grow and to watch it for a second before we can take any new steps. We have to let that happen. It's so crucial. I promise if you do this, you will be rewarded because you will see yourself valuing what you've created. You will see yourself getting a new perspective, and you will see yourself getting the rest that you need and turning yourself on and re-energizing yourself for that next round, for that harvest. So rest to receive, balancing the feminine and the masculine. The masculine energy, again, is not, this whole masculine feminine concept is nothing to do with women acting more like men or men acting more like women. This is such a frustration of mine. This has to be understood because we're not getting it. Think of it as yin and yang. The masculine energy is all about action. It's all about structure. It's all about power. There's so much beauty in that masculine energy. The feminine energy is about resting, receiving, allowing, emotions, collaboration. And we have to have that balance. And anymore, I believe that balance comes from the feminine first. It comes from dipping into yourself, going deep into yourself. There's some serious dark spaces in the feminine energy. She'll take you deep. She will, that Kali energy. Kali is that Hindu goddess that is all about transformation. She will burn it down, but then she will show you the new path. She will allow that masculine energy to come in and take it and run with it. But it has to start in that space of creativity. It has to start in that place of deep connection and alignment to yourself, to what you're building, to what you're growing, before we can take it to that action step. We can create these businesses from a headspace. We can create a plan. We can create a whole outline, and we can go into it. We can start building the structure. And that's how business has been done for so many years now. This is how the corporatocracy works. This is how the world works. This is how relationships works. This is how women living in a man's world works. But I'm telling you that this has to start to shift, where we come back to our feminine energy first, and we step deeply into it first. Anytime you create a plan that's from the head and it's not rooted, it's not going to be able to thrive as well. When you start the plan in a deep connection and then you grow it upwards, you're making a whole significant, you're building something in a whole different way. It honors you. It honors those around you. It's connected to what is actually needed. I have so much more to say on that topic. That will be another episode soon on the feminine and masculine energy. Ooh, I've got so much to say about it. I can't even wait to share it. There's just been so much that I feel like I've been saying over and over to people that really it's time for it to come out. We need to make this shift. For now, I want to just share this about light codes. There's so much more to say on this, and I'm interested to hear how this aligns with you and your thoughts on it as we continue to grow this podcast. That was today's episode on the summer solstice, the energy of this season, Lionsgate, a little bit more about living in balance and harmony with that divine masculine and sacred feminine energy. I hope that this was useful. I'd love to hear from you if you have anything that you'd like to share that really spoke to you on this episode. Don't forget to like, rate, review. Don't forget to turn on the notifications for this podcast. And I love you so much. Look forward to seeing you soon.